Hey everybody, I'm on the floor in my spare bedroom where several of my worm bins have been moved temporarily to make room for Christmas stuff, and I don't think the visitors I'm having want worm tubs all around the kitchen table. So one of the things I rediscovered that I forgot about is what's under this paper bag, which is that little mini see-through 3-chamber composting project. I guess it was sold as a teaching aid, but I made it into a little mini blue bin, and I actually forgot about it. In the corner way down underneath there is the 12 12 21 21 project, and we can't peek at that because it won't be 21 days until January 3rd. But I just put that little blue bin, the see-through bin, in here and put a paper bag over it to keep the light off them since it is see-through. So I have not looked at it. I have not fed them. I don't know. They may not even be alive. Let's see. I'm not sure which is the best way to look at this, but let's just take off the paper bag, and we're going to have to pick it up right quick because if there are any on the external, then they're going to head inside. Okay, so here's what we see. Now we know how full this thing was. You can see up to the top this full. Now looking through, I can see worms, of course. I can see a couple of pot worms. There's one right there, and there's a couple right there. And let's look around here. It looks like they made castings out of everything that was in there. Let me kind of move this over here onto me. It's very difficult to get a good angle. So it looks like they've eaten everything, but I did put one piece of paper on top to help maintain the moisture in there. Now let's see if we can see in the bottom. Oh, the sun is coming right in the window right now, making this difficult. So in the bottom, we can see the worms. So what I'm going to do is let's open this up. Let's take a peek inside. And let me grab the paper bag to put things on. Let's see what they've done. Okay, so the top covering is nothing exciting. So I pull out material here. This is kind of the straw and grass I stuffed down in there. And the worms are still enjoying that. And their leaves. Okay, let's keep going. See what's going on in here. So we've got worms and looking to see if there's any critters that don't belong, such as mites. I don't see any. All I did see were a couple of pot worms, which they may have. Well, I don't really know where they came from, but don't pot worms just suddenly appear anyway? Okay, let's keep digging down because I know there's more worms in here than this, and they're probably all close to the bottom. So they definitely have done some damage. This was mostly straw that was in here, which is very hard to break down. Straw and leaves, not regular kitchen scraps. So you can see, you know, like just on my fingers, the castings that have been made in this little teeny cube. And one thing I'll point out is, even though there's holes into the other chambers, they weren't distressed enough. I don't see any worm jerky in the bottom there, so they've clearly stayed in this one chamber. And if you look here at my hand, you can see they're breeding in here. Look at that little teeny one on my finger right there. That's definitely only a few days old. Let me wipe it off on there. All right, let me keep pulling out stuff. Okay, now I feel something more. Now, I will tip the camera up to show there's a lot of sun coming right through that window, which was hitting this, so I didn't realize it. Like I said, I had to move a bunch of stuff in here for just a few days. So even with that paper bag, it probably wasn't enough to keep them content, so they all dove to the bottom. But we can look at the mix of what's in here. You'll see worms of every age and a good amount of breakdown. Let me put this down here. Hold this. Okay, let's see. Let's just kind of take a look at this. So, mini worm bin, mini worm ball, right? They look healthy. The moisture is really good. They didn't dry out, nor did they get too wet. And like I said, I really forgot about this bin because I set it inside of a tub with the little project going on in the corner, and I covered it, and it out of sight, out of mind, I guess. I just forgot about it. And it still is just the straw and leaves that is making up what they're working on. There is still some more down in the bin. We'll get to that in a minute. But these worms look healthy, and you know, since I did see the hatchling on my finger, they're breeding, which means at some point they're going to reach the capacity to where they're not even going to be able to, I'm just looking to see if there's any more, to be in here without being seen. They won't be able to hide good enough. Okay, let's take a look down there. Let me scoop it out because I really can't get the phone in there, of course. This feels like the castings that they've made. Yeah, pretty much it is. So I'll have to look back to see what day I actually set this up. I don't remember. You can see on the little piece of wood there's another very small worm. So that's another hatchling. Where did it go? There was a smaller one. Oh, I feel this worm creeping up my hand. It always feels weird when you don't expect it. Okay, folks, I had gotten a phone call from one of my out-of-state guests coming for Christmas, which I had to take. So I covered the little worms up here so I could resume. What I've done now is I've taken everything out of this one little cubicle they were in and just plopped it up here just so you can see where the material is at. And really, it's still a lot of the straw, but it's much, much more broken down. This was hard, brittle straw. Now it's getting soft, and they will be chewing through it or working their way through the microbial life on it rather soon. The worm population in itself has absolutely increased. And while I was on the phone, I was picking through and found worms of every age, from brand new hatchlings up to the adults. And so there's new life in here for sure. And the leaves are very much being broken down as well. And let's see if I can zoom in here, or not zoom in, but focus in. As you can see, the moisture level is really, really good in here. I was a little concerned with it being, you know, a clear cube cylinder, that it was going to either be, well, I thought it was going to be too wet, especially since I put in very wet bedding to begin with. But it's not overly wet. It's not dry. It doesn't need moisture. And I'm going to continue exactly as it is. I'm not going to add any food of any kind. These leaves and this twigs and straw and whatever it is that came in from outside, that's what they're going to continue to live in and breed in and turn into castings, hopefully. And then, you know, once this is down or consumed, I will add some into the center chamber, and there's holes between the chambers for them to go between. And let's see, you know, if it's going to work as I hope, and they'll go into the next chamber and break that stuff down. I may at that point be a little more conservative, or what's the word? Conventional about what I feed them. There, I may give them, you know, actual food scraps, but this is just sort of an experiment within an experiment. Put worms in a clear cube and don't give them anything but bedding for food. It's just little worms on all my fingers. Red worms, I think you could pick them up and put them in a blender and they would breed while they're in the spinning cycle. I mean, blue worms, not red worms. Red worms are shy, but blue worms are just bold. They don't really care. It's funny because as soon as they see the light, they are the most nervous of all worms, but their breeding habits are just insane. And it doesn't matter what you keep them in, if it's perfect conditions, wet, dry, cramped, spacious, they're breeding. I mean, I guess worms have 3 jobs, right? Eat, poop, and mate. I guess when that's all you have to do with your life, you get good at it. So, I'm going to just plop them back in. What I think I'll do is I have some cardboard boxes from online shopping, and I'm just going to find a box that's about the size of this cube and just slip it over it. Whoops, there's a little wormy right there. I will save him. And just slip it over it so that they have a little bit of darkness while they're in this room. Come on, little wormy. There, I got him. I got it. There's not a him or a her. It's a both, so it's an it. So yeah, I'll slip a box upside down over them to give them some darkness. And I will try not to forget about them. So here they are, back in their bin. There's a little more there I have to put in, but you don't need to watch that part. I'm getting shadows. So they've done a lot of work, given that they weren't in great conditions as far as lighting goes. They've done a good job breeding, and the moisture level must have been right to start with, because I guess really, if you think about it, this doesn't really have the capacity to either dry out or get moister, because being in a plastic cylindrical cube, there's not much air going through, except for the fact that there are air holes in the top. So there's enough air, but not enough to dry it out. And since I'm not adding any wet food or any food of any kind, uh-oh, I dropped one into the other chamber. Oh no, I'll save them. Since I'm not adding any wet food, there's no new moisture being added in, so I guess I started it right to begin with. So I'm going to cover them up, and we'll check back in on them in, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, to see what progress they're making. All right, everybody, happy holidays. Another video soon.